250 direct and indirect jobs, and these are pretty high-paying jobs. They've already asked American Airlines, because they're headquartered in Dallas, to add additional flights to Dallas from Lafayette to accommodate their people that will be coming back and forth while this facility is built over the next year. So what are we proposing? Proposing 1 cent for one project. And though it says 1 year, we're really talking about 8 months. Proposing a sales tax that covers everything, on everything except for food and prescriptions. That would generate around $38 million, which would pay a third of the total cost. We estimate the total cost of the new terminal to be $90 million. The airport is financially sound, and so it would bond another third. And then with those two pieces in place, we can go to the state and the federal governments that have grants available. And that would get some matching funds, and that would pay for the final third of it. This is the important thing. It's the 1 cent tax, which would be on the December 6th ballot, is dedicated to a new airport terminal in support of infrastructure. Cannot be used for any other purpose. It would start April 1st and end November 30th, 2015. There is no option to renew it at that point. So unlike a lot of taxes that we all feel like we vote for it and then it doesn't get used for what it's supposed to be used for, and then it gets extended forever and ever, it just never goes away. This one will go away after 8 months. So we'll take any of your questions, answer them. Anybody have? I'm going to introduce Mr. Paul Gilbo and Mr. Paul Segura, who are on the Airport Commission. My boss, Larry Sides, sitting there, but he's got a laryngitis thing going on today. We're going to pass you out one of these. It's got a lot of good information on the current state of the airport, and it might help you with some of your questions.
Mr. Goodman, thank you for coming out.
Feel free to ask.
You got a question about coming in? Yes. Just 1 second.
This is not a question. It's a commitment of the olden days before the airport. My uncle was married to a girl by the name of Croquet. That's a French name. Her daddy and mother were brought here from France to run a sugarcane plantation where the airport is today. I don't know if you're aware of that. Anyhow, they brought him here in the 1800s. Of course, they all deceased. Even my aunt and my uncle, they all gone. One of the sons and myself and 1 or 2 more, the only one living from them old people. So I thought I'd mention about this was a sugarcane plantation until they made it an airport. I want to make sure everybody knew about it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ray Green. Recently, our city parish president states that we're going to be faced with another choice. We're either going to have another tax or deconsolidate. The people of Lafayette have spoken a couple of times. Obviously, they do not want to deconsolidate, so what's the alternative? Next, today in the newspaper, rapid growth strains schools. The schools need money seemingly before they go out of business. I get the impression. Economic growth may be a positive thing, but it's also putting a big strain on Lafayette Parish school system. They need money everywhere. Buses are overcrowded, forcing some students to stand or sit in the aisles. Some schools have to run 4 or 5 lunch periods because the accommodations are too small. School system needs money. Lafayette Parish needs money. And now the airport people want some money too. That would be great if we had the money. My suggestion is, if you want some money from these people who fly, let the people who fly pay the fare. I think that's only fair. Of course, that's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
One of the things that's kind of maybe misunderstood about the airport is the airport does not set the airline ticket prices. There is a limit of, we get what is called a passenger facility charge, which is set by the federal government and is maxed out at $4.50 per passenger. We can't charge any more than that. That's unless Congress changes the law. So the idea of, the people that are flying out of the airport paying for the terminal is just not a feasible way to go. We think that this tax, and the fact that it's a sales tax makes it more fair than if it's a property tax, because a sales tax is something everybody pays, whether you own your home or not. So that there's a lot to consider, and one of the things that the Airport Commission, we looked at this very closely, and we know that the school board's eventually going to come to the taxpayers for funding. But the airport was ready to do what we want to do now, not a year from now. We have to basically do something to accommodate all the travelers we have, and it's going to increase. I mean, we just had a Denver flight, which is 100 passengers extra a day, and that's been going since the 19th of August. And it's doing very well. So, we've got 3 airlines. They fly to, American flies to Dallas, United flies to Houston and Denver, and then we have Delta that flies to Atlanta. So basically, you can get anywhere you want from Lafayette. It's something that I think that the people of this community, as long as the community continues to grow, the airport's going to need to expand and to accommodate it, or else we're going to start losing people driving to New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Houston or where have you. So.
Which one do you want? You can't have all 3 of them.
What's that?
Taxes. So which tax do you want? School board?
Yeah, but the thing about this is it's 8 months, and there is no renewing it, there's no extending it. It'll be 8 months. The airport takes whatever is raised in that 8-month period, and it's gone. And
It's just for 1 year?
for 8
What
months.
happens to the second year?
I'm sorry?
It says 1 cent 1 year. What's gonna happen? That's just 1 year?
It's just 8 months of 2015.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit less. So it'll be the 8 months of from April 1st to November 30th, 2015. And then it goes away. So we'll be back to paying, what, 8%?
Yeah.
9%.
How much is the total cost of tearing down that terminal now and then building the new one? How much will the deconstruction cost?
Well, that wouldn't happen until after the new one was built.
Yeah. What would the price be on that?
And, there's been some discussion or questions asked, is there different maybe use for the old terminal? That building is 55 years old, and it's starting to show its age in a big way. Like I said, it's served us very well. It's just not going to be able to meet the needs of the future.
Y'all have no idea what the price of the cost to deconstruct it?
No, it's a little premature to try and fix that. We just know that it'll go away because, you see, once it's gone, that's where the expansion of the new take place out to the direction where it is.
Robert, the total cost of this terminal project is $90 million.
That's including deconstruction.
That's including everything. And that's not just $90 million to build a new building. That's $90 million to build, to expand the ramp. The ramp will be expanded tremendously, and if you know anything about weights and concrete, you need 2 feet of concrete to hold the weight of these airplanes. We built a ramp for the cargo carriers. Just the concrete on that ramp was $10 million. So you can see the costs involved with the project. The ramp will be expanded to accommodate the airplanes and make it much safer than it is now. There's not a whole lot of room for the airplanes to pass around each other. The driveways will all be redone. The parking lot will probably be expanded by about 40%, and then the new terminal will be built. As Robert said, some days we don't have any parking spaces for anyone.
Well, let me understand. What y'all gonna do is y'all gonna expand where Fournette was in that area?
No,
And-
well, Fournette was, the building, the Paul Fournette building
Yeah.
was torn down because
Yes.
it was in bad shape. So that's where this is located, right? Let me get behind this for a second. This is where Paul Fournette's was.
Yes,
This is the existing terminal,
yes.
and this is the existing parking lot. So what will happen is this building will be built while the old
It's being utilized.
is being utilized, and then once it's completed, operations will be moved over, and then that building will be torn down and used for
And that'll
another
be
use.
the area you can expand later.
It
It's right
could be
there.
used to expand some of the terminal, but I mean, there's a lot of room there. It could be used for some other things for the airport as well.
How far in the future do you anticipate that the new facility will meet our needs?
Well, about 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah. But the FAA has determined that in, what is it,
2025.
2025, the amount of people going through the airport is going to increase by 40%. So, I mean, we have a good facility that has been used adequately, but it's no longer meeting our needs. It's inefficient. There's an atrium that goes through the middle of it. The layout is not good. If we could have added on to it, we would have, but it's about 85% of the cost to add on to that building. It just doesn't lend itself to be expanded very well, and it would disrupt operations. And so another issue that Robert talked about is since September 11th, 9/11, there's more and more security issues with baggage and with people. And if you've been to the airport, there's one line that people go through. Your bags are not checked in a manner that they should be. I mean, they are secured, but there's a better method. And in that new terminal, we'll lay that all out. Everything down to the simple things as the cafe. You'll be able to get food on both sides of the secure area and not the secure area. So anyway, but I hope that answered that. Well, and what this will do is, right now we only have three gates, and if we want to get more flights, we need more gates. And we had Allegiant Air that operated out of the Lafayette Airport for a period of time to one of the more popular destinations, Las Vegas, from here. And the flight was packed. But when they would come in, it would inundate the airport with all these people, and the other flights, were coming in and needed that airplane to move out of the way just so they could use the same boarding bridge. So it's going to do a lot of things for the airport and expand opportunities for us.
Please.
Well, and I'd like to say something to your question about what project do we need. There's a lot of projects that Lafayette needs. Education, roads, drainage, the airport. There's a lot of them. The thing is we're ready to go. We've been working on this project for a couple of years, and we're willing to put up our money. It's a $90 million project, and the airport's going to put up about a third of our own money. And so we were short by about $35 million. We thought about different methods, and this was a method that we thought was the best, that wouldn't last that long, and would raise an adequate amount of money to build the terminal. And about, not all of the sales taxes are paid by people that live in this parish. They're paid by people that do business here or that don't even live here. So it's a limited tax. It's only 8 months, and it's a sales tax, which we felt was not as bad as a property tax.
We have a lot of senior citizens, a lot of handicapped people, a lot of disabled veterans.
Right.
Certainly, no offense, but tell them that. I'm a senior citizen. I have a lot of incurred expenses now that I didn't have before. I've got to pay somebody to cut my grass. I didn't used to have to do that.
Right.
I have to pay somebody to come in and help us do our housework. I have a wife and a daughter that's homebound. I've got to pay additional services for that. Now then, every time I turn around, somebody else got their hand out. There is a limit as to what some senior citizens, some handicapped, and some disabled veterans can take.
Well, and I appreciate
just about reached that point.
I appreciate that. And we're going to have our hand out, but it's only going to be for 8 months, and we're going to pull it back. So,
Well, I'd hate to be slapped in the face for 8 months.
well, but if we either choke with an old 1950s facility or with a growing economy that demands it.
I understand what he's saying, because I'm disabled veteran also.
Right.
And stuff like this. But I think our money would be better spent there at this expansion than it would be on education. And I'll tell you why. There's money there for education, but Lafayette Parish School Board has been squandering money for years and years on piss-poor projects that other state educational facilities throw out. We buy it, we try for 2 years, then we throw it out, and we buy another that has been discontinued from another state, and on and on and on. And if you look at the trouble they have in the school board now, with the outrageous salary that superintendent's getting, now that they're trying to indict and stuff like this, I think it would be a burden on some of the people of Lafayette, but I think it'd be a better burden, much more represented straightforward than from education today. Not that I'm against education, I love education, but they have to be accountable like everybody else.
Right.
Mike Henson, he's our secretary, and he has a question or a comment.
Well, I'm embarrassed to ask my question because it's got nothing to do with the tax per se. I'm just curious. You talk about increasing parking 40%. How are you going to do that? Just out of curiosity, you're talking about garages? You're talking about just expanding more?
We're talking about building parking lots. If it's feasible to build if it's feasible to build a deck, that might be considered. But
Okay, there's no concrete plan right now as far as how you're going to accomplish that?
what we have now is a conceptual plan, and then once we get the money, then we will actually design the terminal. So,
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because it seems like if you're going to go to the people and ask that you're going to expand the terminal and you're going to accomplish all these nice things, well, most people don't get involved in the details of construction, obviously. But if you can tell them what about the airport that you're going to be able to do besides just I suppose a generic statement, we're going to increase the parking. Well, okay, fine, but you've only got so much property there to put this in. What's the plan to do that? That might get more people on your side. Because I'm for it. I think it's a great plan, personally. I've been for it since day one. But you got to convince other people. And the fact that it's just a short-term 1% tax is only a piece of the pie. What you're going to get for that pie is what you need to know that too. Anyway, that's it. Simple question.
get your answer? Okay. Any questions that I'm inviting you that you come up and ask those questions? It's important that you get an answer if you have a real concern, either for or against. I'm going to mention something. I think maybe 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, I read an article in the Daily Advertiser, and by the way, let me preface my statement by saying, I don't know what the economic thrust will be. I don't know how much they're going to be able to give back to Lafayette, having a successful airport, getting people to where they are, and getting people in this community that wants to move here with their businesses and so forth. But I was really interested in finding out that a community called Monroe, Louisiana, they explained where they were going with an airport, and I believe I'm correct, they called it an airport city. Economic development was a very, very big part of the article. We haven't talked a lot about those numbers, but if Monroe would go and put a new airport and develop it as a city, and they feel like it'd be a very strong economic thrust for their community, it tells me we need to really find out, and that not just because it's a tax, we're knocking it down. We're not doing this just for Lafayette Parish. We're drawing, what, 600,000, you said, is the number, and that's in somewhere around 8 or 13 different parishes. People come here. This is, in the development process, we're not having to pay all of it. And I can understand Ray where he's short, in other words, every month he has to cut the grass. Call me up, Ray, I might help with the grass cutting. But let me just say, we are having to make decisions. It's just like I'm hearing somebody talking about education. We haven't had good decision in education for a very, very long time. So everything comes up all at one time, and we paid $1 million for someone to tell us that we needed $1 billion plus, $1.1 billion if I'm correct, on the expenditure of our school system in this parish. And of course now with that kind of number, everybody shot it down at the very beginning, so we're scared of everything. And I think there's a little bit of scare concerning the airport. I personally see it as an asset for this community, and we need to think very seriously about doing something about that. Yes, ma'am, come up. I'm letting this lady speak. Ladies are first.
All the time.
All the time.
I want to know if the tax is passed, what would be the commencement date and completion date?
The building?
The beginning date, the ending date.
I'm thinking it's probably a 5-year project. So it would begin soon.
April and March, it ends in November.
Yeah, that's it. But she was asking about the actual construction.
Design, construction.
Yeah, about 5 years, I believe.
When will it start? When will the project begin?
As soon as the tax, if the tax is passed, it'll begin then. It'll probably take about 6 to 9 months before construction actually starts, because there'll be a design process of, doing a more definitive design and then bid process for construction and things like that, which takes a little time.
And how long will it take to?
Then it will take about 3 years and beyond that to, actually construct it.
Thank you, ma'am. Dale Brasso, I know you want to help these guys get this thing passed.
Well, Carol, I want to try to help them, but what I first wanted to tell you was using Monroe as an example is not good. Monroe is the same town that passed a tax to build a car, and it's never arrived, and they're still collecting the tax. So be careful with that. What I'd like to say about the tax is this. I'm afraid of taxes because once you pass them, something always changes. What are you saying? Is this tax gonna die and it can never be renewed?
Never.
It's gonna be on the tax, on the ballot,
That's right.
that it can never be renewed.
That's right.
Unless they vote to renew it.
Well, that's
No, the wording in the The resolution does not allow for it. Thank you.
There's always gray areas, and you gotta be careful with that.
No,
But listen, I understand what you're saying. My complaint with the airport right now is, I had to deal in the airport a while back. And a Sunday morning, the flight was canceled, my son was coming in, I was gonna pick him up. And you couldn't find a cup of coffee at the airport. So you need to take care of what you got now and improve on what you got now before trying to bring more in. Because if you can't find a cup of coffee at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, something's wrong in Louisiana, okay? And that's all I'm saying. I have no problem paying for progress, but I am very sketchy of taxes, to be honest with you. And most people are today. Thank you very much. I think you're doing it. And I want to.
Thank you,
He didn't get any coffee.
Carol, let me, I want to answer Mr. Brasso's
He didn't get any.
tax question. When we negotiated with Jerry Osborne to get this thing going,
Get on the
the
mic.
bond commission and everything else, I was a big proponent of make it as tight as we could. And at one point he looked at me and he smiled. He said, "That's the first time I ever had anybody come to me to put some restrictions on it. Usually they want loopholes." The proposition, as I understand it, is going to be on the ballot exactly the way, it's going to be a short proposition. It'll be exactly the way, and there's no area of renewal unless the people comes up and they want to pass another one. We not in that.
Don't say that.
I can promise you, because I'm not in the game if there's a renewal.
I understand what you're saying.
Well, even if they wanted to, they would have to go back to the voters.
Well, yeah.
And you know how that would be.
We have to go to the council.
But renewal, taxes
You
are
told me
renewed.
once, you only needed very
Not to argue the point, taxes are renewed all the time. Because people say, what do you say?
This tax
You're already
cannot be
paying the
renewed.
tax, so just renew it.
This we
Yeah,
can't.
I'm afraid of it.
Yeah, they come back.
I understand.
That's the beauty of it.
Can't be renewed.
I understand. Okay.
All right, so one
That's the
time.
way it's written.
So you're gonna have some coffee there on Sunday morning? That's my problem.
We're going to be requesting on their
That's why we need a new
FQ to get a person to run the restaurant. You want to bid on it? I want to address one question about the design not being ready. Government is good on making a bunch of studies. And we talked about, in fact, we went into an initial contract to do some work to let us see how much it would cost and all that. But we put a stop to it, because if you don't have the money, why pay for something you don't know you're going to build? I think we know where we want to go, and I can assure you as a member of the commission, I'm just one of 7, that if that tax passes, that on our meeting the following week in December, we're going to be going for RFQs for architects to design the building, and we might be able to build some infrastructure a little quicker than the terminal. If we got enough money to build a deck, then we could do that before the terminal's built. So we're working real hard to try to accomplish a lot of things without spending any big money on something we might not use if the tax fails. So that's why we're kind of restrictive in our movement on it. But I think we're showing what we hope we can do. Thank you.
We still have some time, and we got started a little late on the filming. So if you have an opportunity to make a statement, please take time out and ask that question that maybe it's going to help you decide your decision making. Come up and run it through here if you don't mind, sir. We do this on AOC, and your question may be in the
My name's John Rougeau. How many airlines, if this is built, how many more airlines can we attract here, or do y'all expect to attract to the airport? In regards to the ones we have now, Delta and American and United.
Right.
Well, how many more?
Well, we're not sure. The airline industry is changing, as you know, and it's not as easy to fly as it used to be. It's different than it was 5 years ago. It's different than it was 10, 20, and 30 years ago. There are not as many major carriers as there used to be, but there are some regional carriers and some low discount carriers. We have tried ongoing to get some of the lower cost carriers here, or airlines that will go to different locations rather than just Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston. So we've got some on some limited bases, but we go to conferences and meetings to try to get them to come. So we hope we can get some others. We did a study that said that because of the way the airline industry is now, we may get an additional carrier that's not here, but there's not many of them, as you know. But what we will do is we will probably increase more flights by the existing ones that we have here now. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not trying to get other carriers, but we will probably get more flights because we have the capacity to do so.
Well, my point was like, if this facility is built, would that be an inducement for others? It'd be a better inducement for others to come.
Yes, it could be, but from
Yeah.
from one of the instances I was telling you about the limited
Yeah.
gates that we have.
Okay, good, thank you.
You know, I would just point out that basically, you know, several years back you had Delta and Northwest, which merged together, and Northwest went away. In recent years, United and Continental have merged together. Continental's gone away. Right now, American Airlines and US Air are in the process of merging together. Don't know exactly how that one's going to work out, but one of them will go away at that point. So basically, you know, you're left with really 4 major carriers in the U.S. if you count Southwest as one. So I think what Paul was saying is exactly right. I think
we had a conversation.
US Air's gone away, Rob.
Yeah, we had a conversation earlier about Southwest. We've talked to Southwest a number of times. We'd love to get them here. They have certain criteria. You need 1 million people within a 45-mile radius. We have about 650 to 750 in that radius. They don't like to be too close to their existing locations, but I mean, doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying. It's just that, as Robert said, there's not as many players as there used to be. There's only a handful of majors, and then some regional carriers that kind of either operate on the West Coast or operate on the East Coast. But what we just got a new flight, if you saw in the news, to direct flight to Denver. That's an opportunity right there that we didn't get a new airline, but we got another location that we're flying out of. So hopefully we can get another one going east, maybe, so that you don't have to just go through Atlanta in order to get east. But if we can get another carrier, we'll do everything we can to do it. But it may make more sense to get more flights. Or what's happening with our existing flights, Delta recently increased the size of their airplanes so that they can, you know, in addition to adding more flights, sometimes they just increase the size of the airplane.
Question.
Yes.
You know what a mock trial is?
Yes.
Well, somebody's here with us tonight that's heard both sides of the story. Let's have a mock trial and ask a judge how would she rule if this were brought up in her court. I mean, this is a mock trial with no obligation.
She's a frequent flyer. She might have to recuse herself.
Why don't we just take a vote?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Take a vote.
We still have some time. That, you know, it's an important subject, so here's your opportunity.
I
Tommy,
second
yeah.
it. Let's take a vote in here just to see.
Just to give an idea.
I don't know, some people may not want to do that. We did it privately, it would be no big problem. But, you know, standing up, you know, and looking at the bullet coming at you, may not want to do that one.
Don't want to know how you're going to vote.
I vote.
But is there any other questions or comments that you have? Tom, you a big frequent flyer?
I'm not a frequent flyer.
Tonight's the night you get in.
I just had a good question. What, I'm sure y'all don't really know, the airport is owned by you people. We just happen to be appointed to manage it by the Lafayette City Parish Council. But just to give you an idea, it's not all about flying. A lot of people tells us that they don't use the airport, but if you get a package from FedEx or UPS or mail out of Louisiana that comes through the airport, we also have some tenants. We have an insurance agency that we lease to. Vermilionville is one of our tenants. The Marine Corps building is one of our tenants. National Guard building is one of our tenants. Moss Motors have 2 lots, they are tenants. Shell Service Station is our tenant. You go around and you go where the old motel was on US 90 and take that blacktop, you go back to the lake, and ULL is one of our big tenants there where they train all field people, diving, rescue. It's a really big operation. If you haven't been back there, you should take a ride because it's very impressive. So we're not only about aviation. We have tenants that pays us or pays y'all good money that we try to spend the money wisely. So I just wanted to make that point that you know, there's way more than just air traffic that the general public deals with.
I'd also like to add something. Another thing that that dovetails from what Paul said is the airport is not just for people that go on vacation or travel, but it's for people that do business in this community or people that are doing business outside of this community. So if you don't use the airport, somebody you know is either works for a company that does business that travels through the airport, or you buy goods from a company that travels through the airport. But also, the Department of Transportation and Development with the state of Louisiana did a economic impact study. It has not been released yet, but it will soon be. And Lafayette is rated as the #2 airport to create an economic impact in the state at a value of $1.1 billion. This is the report with the numbers on it. But Lafayette was #2 in creating a $1.1 billion impact in the state.
We still have a little time here that we'd like to film. Ed said, please, ask more questions, comments. Larry, I wish Larry could talk tonight. We'd have another 10, 15 minutes with just Larry. But we'll get you another time, Larry. That's the reason why he's not saying much, but he usually has something to say. Thank you for being here, by the way. We appreciate it here. Well, there's a couple of announcements, and I'd like to ask, did you have something else you want to say?
I'm done unless they got questions.
I think we had one of the announcements is Mr. Ray Green.
Help. Tomorrow night, the City Council once again will vote on a resolution. A resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council expressing support for the Common Sense 3 project, and requesting that the legislature review a proposal that would require candidates for public office to receive a minimum of 1 year of education and training on basic knowledge of the state and federal constitution. If you would like to come down tomorrow night and give your opinion, raise your hand in support of this. Personally, I can't understand why, for example, it takes 300 hours of training, of education, of expense, of licensing, and of taking a test to be able to cut your toenails, when to be a public official, all you got to do is plunk down a filing fee and prove that you lived in the area a certain amount of time and you qualify. That's ludicrous. So if you think that makes sense, common sense, we would appreciate your support tomorrow night at the City Council. Thank you very much. But I'm not going to give up, I promise you that.
It's all about the money, Rick.
Thank you, Ray. I'd like to just announce our next speakers will be October the 6th. We have 2 people running for for parish judge. It's family court. That's Susan Theof, she's the incumbent, and you have Charles Fitzgerald. He is running in that race. I've got a commitment from Susan. I think for sure Charles will be here. At least I expect him to. So anyhow, mark your calendars, October the 6th. You get a chance to visit with both of these gentlemen, if you will. Thank you all very much, and the meeting stands adjourned. Wait a minute, what's the date?
I want to talk. I'd like for Cece and Ella to give us a report on the school board meeting.
Oh, Cece can do it, she's a...
Just give me.
Very quickly, the best I can do is tell you they voted against our children. I still do not know why we cannot, or we don't see a need for a change in our education by providing our children a world-class education. It would pay us over and over and over again from the very beginning of their lives to the very end of their lives. And tonight, while sitting there listening to all of this, I refreshed my memory on incarceration, how much it cost us, and found out that the average grade level for a prison inmate is the 5th grade. So education up front will cost us a lot less up front than at the end, because if you have a prisoner who goes in at 23 and is there for a lifetime, he costs our taxpayers over $1 million. So education reform is what we're all about. I don't know when they're going to get it. They didn't. What I wanted to tell you is that this weekend there were so many forums going on that I made a schedule, and I think I have enough for everybody. So I'd like for you to pick one up on your way out. I'll go put them on that desk, on that last table. Thank you. Yes, sorry about the bad news. That's mine. No, this is mine. I won't take yours.
Specifically, what did they vote against?
No, they voted on the budget tonight, and Dr. Cooper had offered a budget that fit in with the 100% in, 100% out plan, and the board members had a separate budget that took some of our teachers out of our school system that were put in place to help with the achievement gap. And I was asking the board while I was there, right now we have a surplus in our reserves. They are required, or they set up policy to have 3 months reserve in our school board fund, which is a smart thing to do. And Dr. Cooper was asking the board to use monies that was above the 3-month reserve and use that money to fund the programs that our program, the 100% in, 100% out program for our children, he wanted to use that money to fund that program. And they are using some of the money, but they're not allowing him to use all of the money that is above the 3-month reserve, which I think, I don't understand it. You know, as a parent who has children in the school system, my children are doing fine, but we do have a lot of children in our schools that are failing. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter. They are failing, and we have to do something to reach them. I'm not saying that the school system is the savior to everybody's life or anything like that, but they are there to educate our kids, and there are some special needs that some children do have. And you know, these programs are set up to help meet those needs that will benefit all of our children. And that's my take on the meeting. Thank you.
any other statements concerning the school board meeting this evening? If not, I'd like to, adjourn the meeting, and I appreciate everyone being here with us again, and mark your calendars for October the 6th, and you'll have a very good evening. And by the way, I want to thank you very, very much. Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate the invite.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate everybody. Both Pauls. Paul's still here. MSC Michelle. Thank you. MSC.